And how many students went?
38 students.
Okay.
Yeah. I said, and how many came back? 38. Perfect. Shockingly. Perfect. Any more questions?
Thank you. All right, next is public comment. At this time, the board will allow comment on public matters that are not on the main agenda. Members of the audience are encouraged to briefly address the trustees on an issue that is not on the agenda. The chair of the board will seek comments from the audience on significant items as they occur. Public matters do not include any pending legal matters, private personnel issues, or private student issues. Please do not attempt to address such issues at this time or you'll be ruled out of order. Lane, you got 3 minutes.
I don't need 3 minutes.
You want to turn the mic on, please?
Yes, I said I don't need 3 minutes, but so I wanted to just share a little bit of perspective and some information. We've had multiple times this year that the union could have filed a grievance because the CBA was not being followed. And I was asked, actually by Mr. Stuker, about teachers doing breakfast duty. And breakfast duty is actually between 7:30 and 8, and it is, it's during a teacher's non-duty time. That's their time. And his question to me was, well, we did it last year. And I realized that last year it affected 2 people, but I wanted to make sure that we're not, because of the understanding and the difficulty that we understand the districts in with subs, that we don't make these practices and set them as a past precedence. So just a couple things. When we changed from our premise healthcare to Greater Valley Healthcare, it didn't go through the insurance committee advisory board, and it has changed benefits. One of the benefits is labs. We now have to pay for labs. They are not at the hugely reduced rate that we got with premise. Another loss was the primary care physician at premise. One of the other things that could have been grieved, but we have chosen not to, and I just want us to know that we want to be working with the district, but we don't want to set up precedents, is changing job duties, specifically changing a duty to a sub period. And I previously talked about that when a teacher was taken off their duty and asked to sub in an art class for an absent teacher. We're also seeing comp time being created outside the CBA stipulations. Comp time should be earned on a teacher's prep or at the elementary level on their lunch. An example, in the elementary, we have a tech teacher. She took a music class one day and then a PE class for an entire day the next. And elementary students can't just have a study hall. You cannot put first graders in another teacher's classroom and expect study hall, just monitoring and supervising. They have to be engaged in something. Now in the high school, is that my 3 minutes? Oh. I will give this to Sherry. There's a couple more, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew that we were not doing grievances, but they could be, and I don't want them to be past practice.
Lynn, if you just have a couple more, go ahead and finish.
Okay. Another point that I wanted to reiterate was that when students are being re-rostered at the high school, meaning they're taken out of their content class and put into a study hall, or a teacher comes in and monitors them as a study hall, there's content classes missed, and parents are not aware that their child is having an extra study hall rather than maybe a math class or an art class. It's happening at both high schools, and now it's going to be implemented at KMS. So we haven't taken more formal action because we know that we are all in a tough spot. However, we don't want it to be taken as this is permission to be basis for past practice as a rationale in the future.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, and thank you for a little extra.
Any other public comment? All right. Seeing none, next up is the personnel action items. Anything you want to add to that, Liz?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you gonna open that, Pete? Oh, good. So some new hires. Very excited about that. Mostly very excited at the very bottom. Do you notice what's missing? Custodial. So we're down below 10%. So custodial is no longer on this farm with our 3 new hires from last Friday. So we're getting there, and I think this will help immensely in the district. So not only are we hiring, but we're also retaining, which is something that was a 200% turnover in 23-24 in custodial. That department should be very proud of. So.
Do we have a motion?
So made.
Thank you.
Excitement.
Jen.
Custodial.
The motion with a whoop.
That's right.
Thanks, Jen and Sue, for the second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. No.
Take an opportunity to introduce Laura Hawkins, who was just approved by the board as a new transportation director. Laura's in the back there. She has big shoes to fill with Annie leaving, but we're very confident she'll be able to fill them. So looking forward to having her on board.
Thank you.
Speech? Welcome aboard. Next up is the consent agenda for elementary.
So moved.
Thank you, Jen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Linda. You can't.
Elementary, you said.
Elementary. Thank you, Jen, for the first, the motion, and Jennifer for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, elementary only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. District-wide consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Linda. You knew you could get one of those in. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Informational reports. Trustees. Mark?
I really don't have anything worth reporting.
Jack?
Well, I have been enjoying the finance committees as a peanut gallery member, and also the meetings for the charter schools and the PAC that we attended there, learning a lot, and Rob Hunter's award this morning. It's just been great to get involved and try to be involved as much as I can and learn the district again. Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
So Friday, Olney Bizzle is having a school board meeting. I plan to be there. It's my goal in this term to start a relationship with the schools that I'm representing so that they know who it is that's setting things up for their 8th graders when they leave.
Jennifer?
I would just like to say that next week in Butte is the Montana Early Childhood Conference. It's an annual meeting, and we have lots of people. It's always open for, we try to do it at the same place that OPI has their conference, but this year it didn't work out. We're in Butte and they're in Missoula. But people are always welcome, school teachers, and we have a lot of things about the ELA that went into schools this year, and we have some really cool presenters. So put it out to your teachers. They're welcome to come. We feed everybody too, and it's in a hotel, not a high school.
Linda?
I just reflected a lot on all the comments from the last meeting that we had, and my brain was busy for many nights. And as a former educator, 41 years, as a sitting trustee, and just as a human being, I felt very saddened and very upset by the comments that I heard from our fantastic educators. In the past, there was a culture, a very adversarial culture of us versus them when it came to negotiations. The school board and the administration being us and them being the teachers. And I don't know why that ever came about, but I sensed that culture shifting as I hear people talk about how important the teachers are, but I'm not hearing that from our educators. And I don't know how we can make that cultural shift when the money is the thing that's going to do it for them. It's just stuff that's been running around in my brain, and I can remember getting a raise one year of 10 cents an hour, and we were supposed to celebrate. And I know what it feels like to be in that position. So hopefully as a board, and I feel very unified, I feel this board is very unified in their respect for our educators in this district. I just hope that that cultural shift can start to occur maybe now, beginning today as we move forward, and that our teachers feel more support and more value than they are currently feeling. Thank you.
Sue?
Well, a good segue here, Linda. Thank you. I just want to encourage everybody at this table to participate in the Montana Quality Educator Leadership Convention next week. We got approval to have an unlimited remote participation, and I think Sherry's going to send out that information. So you will all be able to log in remotely to it. I encourage you especially to listen to the advocacy workshops, because that's when we will be going over a lot of the legislation that we want to see introduced and hopefully passed. You can never tell what's going to happen during the sessions, but we are going to work really hard this year with the legislature to get some better funding, some more stable funding for our schools across the state. I have a whole stack of material that I have to read through to get ready for the workshops, but there's a lot of good workshops. I know I've sent the schedule to a couple of you. So I hope to see your names on some of those remote participation. I know Matt and I are the only ones going in person, but there's some pretty exciting things going on, I believe.
It's in Missoula again, is that right, Sue?
It's in Missoula. Or it's right at your computer.
All right, so I'd like to jump in off of that. So
I looked at the agenda and trustees on Thursday, October 11th, from 1 to 3, there's 2 sessions involving the legislature and how to communicate with them, how to talk to them.
17th.
Yes, October 17th. Did I say the 17th or the 11th? Anywho, yeah, I'm looking at a 1-7 and I'm saying 11. So, it's been one of those days. So, but in any event, from 1 to 3 on that Thursday the 17th, there's one in the legislature. It's a 2-part one. And I think, honestly, it'd be wonderful for as many of us to try and participate in that to the extent teachers are able to, or maybe have a break, or I'm not sure what individual schedules look like day to day, but if there's any way we can share logins such that they too can see that type of information. I think, as we talked about and reflecting on our last meeting, it was kind of a weird feeling because there's no amount of money that's good enough for our teachers. They deserve every penny and more. And so hearing from our teachers, so many of them I know personally, it's really hard because I also know, I sit on the finance committee and I also know what our bank account looks like. And I just couldn't help but, maybe it's just me still being kind of a rookie trustee, I just couldn't help but feel like somewhat of a middleman between here's the money we get from the legislature in our community, and I want to give every penny of it to our teachers, and yet there's not enough in here to do what I think we should do here. It's so hard. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm probably talking way out of turn here, and Sue and the more wise people are going to tell me I probably shouldn't talk about these things here.
I'm telling you that.
Okay, yeah, Sue never tells me not to talk. Anyway, she's my mentor, so if anyone has any gripes with anything I say, take it up with Sue. I reflect on that too, because it was really hard, and I had a lot of good communications with teachers after the fact about how to communicate with the legislature and what to say and certain talking points to make with them. And there's some really important things that we can talk to the legislature about. I mean, we're not even keeping up with inflation. I mean, the statute only allows 3% a year. We've been greatly in excess of that. So we're not even keeping up with that. That's a small fix from a legislative standpoint to talk to them about. There's other things like, my gosh, we could explore so many things, whether we want to talk about our fixed insurance costs and skyrocketing health insurance and, that's seen statewide. Let's look at more global solutions there from a statewide basis on literally fixed costs that every school district has that vary from school district to school district, but affect the amount of money that's available to pay teachers within a school district, right? Anyway, I'm digressing on all that, but I've had a lot of conversations and spoken with a lot of folks since then. It was really fun to go today and celebrate the Harbor Freight award at Flathead High School, and what was the name of the teacher again? Yeah, oh God, it was wonderful. He was shocked and surprised, and it was so cool. But I will tell you present there was Congressman Ryan Zinke, and Heidi was standing there next to me, and he came up and started talking. I don't know why he talked to me. Anyway, he talked to me, and I was like, and I just bent his ear about school funding for 10 minutes, and I would have kept going, but I think he had to walk away because, I don't know, I just look at this, and all of us here and all of our teachers who are out in the community are gonna have opportunities over and over and over again to get ears of people who can actually make a difference in our funding and in our schools. And I say seize the opportunity. I've never spoken to Ryan Zinke before, but he was in front of me and he said, gosh, is there anything we can do to help? I'm like, actually, yes, there is. Funding, we need a lot of help with funding. And, explain the situation. And he wasn't aware we hadn't passed a high school levy in 17 years in Flathead. And that was a shock to him. And so educating him on that, and I think he's familiar with our funding formula, but obviously when you have a situation like that and it drills down, it greatly impacts your education services that you can provide. So I encourage you all, as opportunities arise, as people are knocking on your doors, as they are nowadays, and wanting to talk to you about certain issues, we can talk to them about the issues that we face, because they're very real and they affect this community, and there's people that will be elected into positions that can have a say in that. So I'm way off topic now, but this is
your time.
It's my report.
This is your time.
Scott, I like this thing. Mr. Chair, if I may continue, I have a few more topics I'd like to go on to. Thank you. I did want to comment on the PAC. So there's been a lot of parents who have expressed frustration with the inability to pass levies. And the $1 a month levy that did not pass, there's been a lot of parents that have expressed frustration, and a lot of community members and community leaders. And I would just like to let the board know, should I do this in the public comment section, or can I do this in my report section? I don't know. I don't know what you're gonna say. All I'm saying is, Matt's looking at me like, oh. This is informational. I can do information, right? Yeah. Okay, information. So there are a group of concerned parents who are forming an independent committee that will be able to communicate what our levy requests or what our school needs are in a way that may actually invoke an emotion. Right now, we can't. We can say there's a hole in the ceiling, but we can't say it's raining on our children's heads, because that invokes an emotion, right? We can't communicate truthfully with our voters about how property taxes and the amount of mills we levy actually affect their taxes, such that they could pass levies, but their property taxes associated to local schools would actually go down. But we can't communicate that, because the statute requires that we say this will increase your property taxes $30 or whatever, right? So independent committees can do things like that. Long story short, there's a group underway. They're working hard on this. More to come. Informational? Good question. More to come. Okay, all right. Finally, on a fun note, there's a lot of crosstown stuff going on these days. So tonight, if you want to get a crosstown fix, soccer's going on. Girls soccer kicks off at 8 o'clock tonight. Crosstown football is Thursday. Crosstown cross country next Wednesday. And if you missed the wonderful crosstown volleyball game where Principal Pete got to show off his pipes when the AV system went out briefly, and he had to do starting lineup introductions in front of raucous crosstown volleyball crowds. He stood over by the cheerleaders. If only you would have had one of the big megaphones or something. But anyway, if you missed last week's game, you can catch next Tuesday a crosstown volleyball game. And it's so impressive to see our kids, this is just sports, but seeing our kids competing and, on the weekend, the Flathead High Volleyball put on a volleyball camp for all kids up through, I think, 8th grade or whatever. And Coach Russell and all those kids were doing an awesome job. And it's cool seeing our kids come in and what they're doing and what opportunities they're getting in our schools and with our teachers and with our coaches. So anyway, that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
The first part of my report kind of piggybacks on what everybody else has been saying. I have also been reflecting on the last meeting, and, I left feeling, all of those, the sad, the what can I do, a little bit hopeless. And I was thinking about a thing that I have heard about marriages and relationships that says that if you are still arguing, if you're still having these hard discussions, if everybody is still participating, that is a part of a relationship that you can really tell that it's over when people don't even feel like it's worth saying anything anymore. And I hope that all of those employees coming in and spending their time talking to us is an indicator that they believe that it is still worth telling us, that they believe that we still care enough, that we are listening, that we can work on this even when it's really hard and even when it hurts. And then I reflected on that personally, about that I need to believe that continuing to reach out to the legislators is worth it. And I do believe
that they are willing to listen. I do believe that it is worth putting in the effort to have these hard conversations and these disagreements, even though it's uncomfortable and sometimes sad. And I really, really hope that we never get to a point where Lynn doesn't feel like she can come in and openly tell us the things that are troubling, that they feel like the only way that they can deal with this is through a grievance or through a lawsuit or by quitting. I want to have a healthy relationship with the employees, and I'm telling myself that communication shows that that is still something that we have. So that's my report on last week. And then much lighter, I just wanted to say that this week having the new format for our meetings was so easy and wonderful. I'm so glad that we switched to this new thing. It's so much better than board docs. So yay for an easy change. That's it.
Thank you. I don't have anything. Okay.
I got a couple things. First off, we had a really successful press release on the charter schools. There was some good media coverage with that. I also sent you guys a note about a follow-up conversation with Representative Sprunger and Budget Director Osmundson. I'd say that most of that conversation centered around ideas of what could we do to be more efficient with the funds we have, not how can we grow funds in public education. So we have some tough sledding to do to talk to folks about what it actually takes to run these programs. It was also a really good opportunity to highlight, I think, the difference in what people want to see happening in schools and what it costs to make those things happen in schools. So the programs that we were able to highlight with the charter schools or Mr. Hunter's class today, those are, or the VOAG or whatever else has generated some attention lately, those are the programs that don't get specific funding from the state, and they are the most expensive to run. And the analogy that I was able to use is talking about the real field. So if we're preparing students with these internships to be able to participate with those skills in the workforce, what would be the comparison in a workforce for how many employees are working in the trades, for the foreman or the job supervisor that'd be in charge of them, or not in charge, but kind of managing the crew? It's a lot less than 30 to 1. So our funding formula is based on 30 to 1. So when we start looking at, why schools are in tough positions and then what the legislature wants, I think there's a way to make a connection here in a real applicable way of saying you want to see more of these skills from our high school students in the real world. This is what it takes for adequate supervision. In the school environment, this is what we're getting. There's an obvious disconnect. So although the conversation was good, I want to just always say that I appreciate Representative Sprunger always listening and being a part of school conversations. And she shows up to our events and it's greatly appreciated. The next thing I want to talk about, shifting gears a little bit, is school visits or site visits. This week we're going to start some staff internal site visits. Those are geared pretty specifically for teachers observing teachers and honing in on something on their craft and then finding collaborative opportunities with each other. Those are going to be facilitated by Sarah and Pete. We're just excited to have those happening. So those will start tomorrow. And then in November is when we're going to start the community tours. So I'm going to be really leaning on you guys in November to support bringing in people that we want to see things happening in our schools. Those will be shorter visits. They won't be the full half day or full day that we're doing with our staff, but they'll be an hour or two with a lunch, and we'll be able to sit down and reflect and break bread together and then talk about the things that they saw. So just know that that's coming. Sue and Jen did a good job of covering most of my comments on other topics, but I'll just hit on the levers that the trustees have to pull when it comes to school funding is really focused around levies in the legislature. So after that, you really are somewhat of a middleman of deciding where the money goes, but the ability for a school system to create new money that doesn't exist. So new money is really in the form of what can we do to mobilize a levy effort and communicate those efforts, and what can we do to advocate in the legislation. This is a legislative year, so it's a good opportunity, but that is really the main lever for trustees to pull. I do want to, not a full negotiations update, but I just want to give a process update. So we were together and had a full board presentation on budget finance. Did a presentation, talked through a lot of the details with that. That meeting was followed by a finance committee meeting where the finance committee said, here's the threshold of what we're recommending to the negotiations committee, not the details of how to put the offer together, but kind of here's the budget limitations. And then the negotiations committee took a little bit of liberty, extended that a little bit from the finance committee and put together a proposal. Unfortunately, and obviously that proposal wasn't what it took to get the deal done. And so we're still looking for creative solutions to solve that. We'll be back at the table tomorrow to listen to the offer from the KEA. And they had sent it Monday, so we've had a chance to get eyes on it, but have some other questions about it. And then on a bit of really positive news, our student from Glacier High School, Mason Gary, who was struck by lightning, he was the honorary captain tonight at the soccer game. So.
I'm good.
I'll just share something super quick. Many of you knew Chow Young in her role as the community involvement coordinator. Matt, you had this vision of making sure that kids got out into the community and that all of our kids got these amazing experiences. It was documented in our strategic plan. And Kara, who took over Chow's position, has just been doing an amazing job. And 3 of the goals she's kind of focused on is, number one, providing equity to all of our kids. We have some students who, I remember walking with a student from Rankin over the little creek over by Rankin Elementary, and he paused for a long second, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, I've never been on, no, he says, what is this? Like he was standing on a bridge. I said, it's a bridge. And this was like new news for this kiddo in our community. And so we just have kids that don't get out and don't get to experience these amazing things, like the young crew from Glacier who gets to travel. We've got kids who don't travel more than 3 blocks from their house. And so one of our goals is ensuring that at every grade level, there's at least 2 experiences that every kinder, 1st, 2nd through 5th grader gets. We want to simplify and streamline for our staff. So Kara created an advisory committee that's represented, every school's represented K-8, and gives feedback and voice and opinions and on what's happening. And then teacher voice and choice. So on top of those 2 experiences per grade level, teachers can still use the website that was created to put in for additional trips that are aligned to priority standards and amazing learning opportunities. So really grateful to work with Kara, and she's just taken what was already amazing and made it even better. So really great work.
Okay, I got to jump in one more time. So the VOEG comment that I made, the VOEG high school students hosted all of the 1st grade students from across the district last week. Last week. What day is it today? It's just awesome to see high school kids greet the kids from the bus. They got them all organized. They take them through different station rotations and talking to them about all the different aspects of the VOEG. Those kids did an amazing job. The elementary kids had a great time, but it was part of every 1st grader is going to get this experience of Heritage Days at the VOEG. So it was great.
Chris, do you have anything? All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sue. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.